The kerosene lamp wick crackled as a spark burst open, jolting Rousseau upright from her sewing machine. A dull ache shot from the nape of her neck to the crown of her head, and in her daze, she caught her reflection in the glass window. 2 braided pigtails, a floral-patterned dacron shirt. This was unmistakably how she looked at 25. Outside, the sound of a Jeep engine cutting off was followed by the thud of military boots on the bluestone pavement. Sending ripples through the water in the enamel mug, Rousseau lunged for the dresser and tore open the calendar. September 12, 1983. The date circled in red ink stung her eyes. It was the 7th day after her miscarriage, and the night before Fin Wang would ask for a divorce. With a clang, the metal door swung open. Fin Wang barged in, carrying the chill of the autumn night, his military epaulets still dusted with sand from the training ground. His eyes flicked to the chicken soup simmering on the stove, and his brows furrowed into a deep crease. "I told you not to wait up," he said. Rousseau clenched the sewing machine cover. Just like in her past life, she had eagerly tended to the pot of soup simmering for 5 hours, only to be met with his curt words. How had she responded back then? "Oh," she had said, "drink it while it's hot." I added codonopsis, slap. This time, Rousseau slammed the soup pot onto the concrete floor, splashing oily droplets onto Fin Wang's gleaming military boots. "If you don't like it, feed it to the dogs." Fin Wang paused as he unbuckled his belt, his dark eyes boring into her with an unsettling intensity. Rousseau stiffened her neck and glared back, only then noticing a freshly scabbed scar on his right cheek. Probably from training. In her past life, she would have pored over medical books all night searching for a remedy to fade it. Now, she wished she could rub salt into it. "Rousseau." His voice rumbled like a muffled drum. "Stop this." "Me, making a scene." Rousseau grabbed the feather duster and pointed out the window. "Then tell me, was it you who had the logistics office specially approve the fabric coupons for that vixen Nia Wu's dress?" The moonlight cast the shadow of the locust tree onto the window paper, flickering dizzyingly. Fin Wang slammed his military cap onto the table, revealing his short, stubble-like hair. "She's a key member of the performance troupe. The costumes for the show, bullshit." Rousseau struck the sewing machine with the duster, startling the scraps of fabric draped over it. "Out of 20 people in the troupe, is she the only one who needs a fitted waist? Does she think she's going on stage or getting married?" Fin Wang's neck flushed crimson, his Adam's apple bobbing twice. Rousseau knew this was the prelude to his temper flaring. In the past, she would have shrunk back like a quail by now, but having already died once, what did she have to fear from him? Damn it all. "Tomorrow I'll go to the neighborhood office to get the divorce papers." Rousseau rummaged through the camphorwood chest for the household register, the rising dust stinging her eyes. "You marry your Nia Wu, I'll return to my tailor shop. We're even." The military canteen slammed against the doorframe, shaking the portrait of the great leader hanging on the wall. Fin Wang's fists clenched with a crack. "Rousseau, a military marriage is no child's play." "Child's play." Rousseau slapped the marriage certificate onto the sewing machine, the red plastic cover splitting at the corner. 3 years. Fin Wang. "Count how many men in this compound sleep in the barracks every night. Battalion Commander Zhao's wife is already pregnant with their 2nd child. And me. I can barely remember what your blanket smells like." The words were too crude, making Aunt Liu, eavesdropping under the windowsill, gasp. Fin Wang's ears burned red as he grabbed her wrist. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Rousseau stumbled as he yanked her forward, her nose bumping against the 2nd brass button on his uniform. That same scent of soap mixed with gun oil filled her nostrils, stinging her eyes until they watered. In her past life, she had loved burying her face right there, listening to the steady thump of his heartbeat. "Fin," Nia Wu's sugary voice, like a cat in heat, drifted in from outside. Rousseau shoved Fin Wang away abruptly and saw the woman clinging to the doorframe in a pink blouse, her chest nearly bursting out of the polyester fabric. "Oh." Rousseau, still awake. Nia Wu swayed her twin braids. "I need to discuss tomorrow's performance with Brother Fin." Rousseau caught sight of the gleaming Shanghai brand watch on her wrist, the very one Fin Wang had claimed to lose last month. She suddenly burst into laughter, startling Nia Wu into taking half a step back. "Nothing beats the preciousness of the girls from the cultural troupe," Rousseau remarked, picking up the tailoring scissors and snipping off a lock of her bangs with a crisp snip. Performance outfits require special fabric, and work discussions have to happen in the dead of night. The clipped strands fluttered down onto Fin Wang's military boots. Well then, shall I clear the room for you too? Fin Wang abruptly snatched the scissors from her and tossed them with a clatter into the sewing basket. You, come inside with me, he ordered. When Ru Su was dragged and shoved into the inner room, the small of her back struck the corner of a camphorwood chest. Last year, she had packed his luggage here, and beneath the chest still lay the red bridal veil from their wedding day. Fin Wang slid the door bolt shut with his backhand, the shadows pressing down on her until she could barely breathe. How long are you going to keep this up? He loosened his collar button, the scar beneath his Adam's apple rising and falling with each breath. It was from a flying stone he took for her in their second year of marriage. Back then, the blood had stained his white shirt in a vast crimson blot. Ru Su turned her face away. Once we're divorced, you'll have peace and quiet. Outside the window, Nia Wu's humming suddenly drifted in. On that bright, sunny day of double nines, Fin Wang's temple throbbed violently as he slammed his hand against the wall behind Ru Su. Plaster dust cascaded down, mingling with his scorching breath against her ear. All because of Nia Wu. Ru Su stared at the copper button swaying at his collar. On the 15th of last month, you said you were going to a meeting at the division headquarters, but you were actually accompanying her to watch Love on Lushan Mountain. 3 days ago during the heavy rain, you carried her across the puddles, and the way she clung to your neck left marks, and Fin Wang suddenly covered her mouth, the rough calluses on his palms scraping her lips painfully. Ru Su bit down hard, tasting blood but refusing to let go. The two struggled against each other until the assembly call sounded outside. Wait for me to come back. Fin Wang grabbed his belt and fastened it around his waist. The buckle clanging against the doorframe, Ru Su shouted at his retreating figure, wait till you come back to sign the papers. As the roar of the jeep faded into the distance, Ru Su collapsed in front of the sewing machine. The butterfly brand logo gleamed coldly under the moonlight, the most valuable item from her dowry. In her past life, when they divorced, she had demanded nothing but clung stubbornly to this sewing machine as she returned to the tailor's shop. Miss Su Ru. Nia Wu leaned against the doorframe like a lingering ghost, her nail polish as red as rooster blood. Fin asked me to pick up his laundry. Su Ru pulled out a white tank top from the bottom of the dresser, its collar still stained with Fin Wang's sweat. As Nia Wu reached for it, she suddenly raised her hand. Wait. Why is there lipstick on this? What? Nia Wu's face turned deathly pale. Ru Su shook out the vest and held it up to the light. Oh. It's the latest shade from Shanghai's Fascia brand. The supply and marketing cooperative sells it for 3.5 yuan a tube. She leaned closer to Nia Wu's mouth. Your lipstick smudged. Little sister. Nia Wu staggered back to the doorstep. Why are you slandering me? If I were you, I'd dab some behind the ears too. Ru Su balled up the vest and threw it at her. Save others from catching a whiff of that stench. Auntie Zhao, who was hanging clothes outside, burst into laughter. Nia Wu stomped her feet and ran off. Ru Su closed the door, only then realizing she was trembling all over. She fumbled for the tin box in the sewing machine drawer and pulled out her treasured white rabbit candy to pop into her mouth. It was brought back by Fin Wang from his last business trip to Shanghai. She hadn't been able to bring herself to eat it before, and the wrapper was crumpled from being clutched too tightly. As the morning light crept up the window lattice, Ru Su had already pulled out all of Fin Wang's clothes. She had shortened the trouser legs of his military uniform by an inch and re-hemmed the frayed edges of his shirt collars. Back then, fearing he would sweat too much during training, she had deliberately stitched every piece of clothing with extra reinforcement. What a fool I was. She slapped herself across the face, then gathered the clothes and stuffed them into the camphorwood chest. At the very bottom lay a brown paper package. Inside was a pair of cloth-soled shoes. On the 99th stitch, she had pricked her finger, and a drop of blood had seeped into the black cotton fabric. The loudspeaker suddenly blared with "The East is Red," startling Ru Su. It was on this very morning in her past life that she had knelt in the snow, begging Fin Wang not to divorce her, while Nia Wu flaunted her non-existent pregnancy in a show of dominance. Not a chance this time. Ru Su fished out the household register and tucked it into her pocket. Just as she was about to leave, she turned back and threw Fin Wang's size 43 military boots into the stove pit. Director Lee from the neighborhood office was cracking sunflower seeds when Ru-Su walked in, nearly choking on one. Xiaosu, what are you? How do I get a divorce certificate? Ru-Su slammed the marriage certificate onto the chipped office desk. Do I need a fingerprint or an official seal? Director Lee's glasses slid down to the tip of his nose. Does Finn know about this? Not yet, but he will soon. Before Ru-Su could finish, a screeching brake sound came from outside. Finn Wang stormed in like a whirlwind, his duty belt undone, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. Report. He was panting heavily, sweat beads rolling down his chin. I'm here to submit a marriage application. Director Lee's mouth gaped wide enough to fit an egg. A divorce application, marriage application. Finn Wang pulled out a red velvet box from his pocket. The wedding was rushed 3 years ago. I owe you a gold ring. Ru-Su stared at the golden circle in the box and suddenly remembered the deformed lump of gold the crematorium staff had picked from her ashes in her past life. So he had remembered all along. Nia Wu's scream pierced through at that moment. Finn, are you crazy? Didn't we agree to file the divorce papers today? Finn Wang turned to shield Ru-Su. His voice as cold as icicles in the dead of winter. Comrade Nia Wu, please address me as Regimental Commander Wang. But you said, I said I would look after new comrades in the cultural troop. Finn Wang pulled out a transfer order from his document folder. You'll report to the border company tomorrow. They're in greater need of cultural backbone personnel there. Ru-Su's hand trembled as she clutched the gold ring. Images flashing before her eyes of Nia Wu strutting around with a fake belly in her past life. So this bastard had known all along. Finn Wang. She kicked his military boot hard. You think you can make a fool out of me? Ru-Su put all her strength into that kick, leaving a dusty footprint on Finn Wang's boot. Director Lee's enamel mug clattered to the ground, the goji berries rolling along the brick seams until they came to rest beneath Nia Wu's high heels. Ru-Su. Listen to me. Finn Wang didn't get to finish before the ring box was slapped against his chest. Ru-Su's fingers shook, not from anger, but from remembering how, in her past life, she had clutched that melted lump of gold on her deathbed, her grip so tight the nurses couldn't pry her fingers open. Regiment Commander Wang. What a clever scheme. Ru-Su pushed the divorce certificate toward Director Lee. 3 years ago when we got married. You said the mission was urgent. Just 3 banquet tables and off you went to suppress bandits. Now that it's time for divorce, you suddenly remember to make up for the ring. Nia Wu suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Finn Wang's sleeve. Brother Finn, don't be foolish, this tigress. Before she could finish, Finn Wang shook her off, sending her stumbling back into the corner of a filing cabinet. Comrade Nia Wu, mind your discipline. Finn Wang pulled a red booklet from his pocket and slammed it on the table. Ru-Su caught a glimpse of the words marriage application and felt a headache coming on. In her past life, she had waited until death without ever seeing this thing. By the end, even the weeds on her grave were fresher than the red cover of a marriage certificate. Director Lee adjusted his glasses and read aloud, Applicant Finn Wang, sharing a profound bond with Comrade Ru-Su. He choked on his own words at this point, glancing up at Ru-Su's blazing eyes and then at Finn Wang's back, stiff as a steel plate. Deep my ass. Ru-Su grabbed the application form and was about to tear it when Finn Wang seized her wrist. The two struggled against each other, and the paper ripped with a sharp crack, neatly splitting Finn Wang's name in half. Outside, the hallway was packed with onlookers. Aunt Liu clicked her tongue while munching melon seeds. See. Young couples fight at the head of the bed and make up at the foot. 3 years of making up, and we still haven't figured it out. Ru-Su yanked her hand back, and the marriage application fluttered to the ground. Finn Wang's neck veins bulged as he suddenly bent down, picked up the ring, grabbed Ru-Su's left hand, and shoved it onto her ring finger. Ru-Su shivered at the touch of his icy fingers as the gold band got stuck at her knuckle, neither going on nor coming off. Finn Wang's palm was slick with sweat, the calluses from gun handling scraping painfully against her hand. Let go, you think you're loading a damn gun. That day you said you wanted a gold ring. Finn Wang's voice suddenly rose, vibrating the glass of the filing cabinet. By the time I got back from the bandit suppression, the supply and marketing cooperative was closed. I climbed over the wall and got a disciplinary action. Ru-Su froze. She remembered that rainy night 3 years ago when she had merely glanced a few extra times at the gold ring on Aunt Zhao next door. Fin Wang kicked the door open in the middle of the night, drenched as if pulled from water, threw her an oil paper package, and turned to leave without a word. Inside was a pack of white rabbit candies. The wrappers already soaked and ruined by the rain. Nia Wu suddenly shrieked and lunged at the application form. That should clearly be my name on there. Her bright red nail polish smeared across the paper like bloodstains. Fin Wang stepped sideways to shield Ru Su, and Nia Wu, unable to stop her momentum, banged her forehead against his military belt and burst into tears with a loud, "Wah, Director Lee, please handle this according to regulations." Fin Wang slapped his officer's ID on the table. "The divorce certificate is void. Process the marriage application now." Ru Su suddenly burst into laughter, tears streaming down her chin. She wiped her face, pulled out a pair of fabric scissors from her pocket, and with a snip, severed the gold ring tangled around her knuckles. "Fin Wang, do you think I'm your military dog, wagging my tail for a scrap of meat?" The broken gold hoop bounced under the filing cabinet, and Nia Wu scrambled to retrieve it. Ru Su stepped on the hem of her skirt, tearing a rip in the pink polyester with a rip. "Little sister, this scrap of junk suits you just fine, outside." A muffled thunderclap suddenly exploded, and raindrops pounded noisily against the tin roof. Fin Wang abruptly scooped Ru Su up in his arms, ignoring her kicks and punches, his military boots crunching over the mess on the floor. "Director Lee, come get the wedding candies tomorrow." "Fin Wang, put me down." Ru Su dug her nails into the back of his neck, feeling a rough, uneven scar. It was from the beam that had burned him last year when he saved her. He had carried her for 2 miles without flinching, and the wound festered for half a month. The jeep jolted nauseatingly through the rain curtain. When Ru Su was thrown into the back seat, her head knocked against the window frame. Fin Wang yanked open his collar, water droplets trickling down his Adam's apple. "Had enough of this tantrum." "Not even close." Ru Su lunged to bite his shoulder. "Tasting iron through the soaked military uniform. Who gave you the right to decide for me? In our past life," she choked abruptly as Fin Wang suddenly gripped her chin. "What past life?" The windshield wipers carved semicircles on the front window. Ru Su stared at his bobbing Adam's apple. There should have been a scar there, from a steel bar during the 1998 flood relief. But now his neck was smooth, bearing only a brown mole. "Fin Wang." Ru Su suddenly went limp, tears mixing with rain as they streamed down her collar. "Just let me go." The hand gripping her chin trembled slightly before Fin Wang abruptly yanked a military belt and tied her to the car seat. Just as Ru Su was about to curse, lips tasting of gun oil pressed down on hers, she bit his tongue hard, the metallic tang of blood flooding their mouths. But Fin Wang only tightened his grip on the back of her head, deepening the kiss. The car roof thudded under the pounding rain. When Ru Su finally broke free, a streak of blood lingered at the corner of her mouth. Fin Wang's thumb brushed over her swollen lips, his eyes burning with a dark fire. "Let you go, back then, when you waved that little red book and swore you'd spend your life with me. Why didn't you say those words then?" Ru Su froze. It was the summer of 1976. She had squeezed into the crowd of educated youth, watching him enlist with a big red flower pinned to his chest. As the truck started moving, she had chased it for miles, waving a tattered copy of asterisk quotations from Chairman Mao asterisk and shouting, "Fin Wang, I'll wait for you to come back and marry me. Stop bringing up the past." Ru Su yanked off her gun belt. "That was then, this is now." The jeep screeched to a halt at the courtyard gate. Fin Wang hoisted her over his shoulder and carried her inside, hanging upside down. Ru Su saw Nia Wu stomping her feet in the rain, her red leather shoes stuck in the mud. "Fin, you promised me." "I promised your father I'd look after you." Fin Wang kicked open the door. "Now you're in the cultural troupe, you've got your city residency." "I kept my word." As Ru Su was tossed onto the military-issue quilt, it suddenly struck her that Nia Wu's father had once saved Fin Wang's life. Right up until her death in her previous life, she'd never figured out whether that bastard Fin had any real feelings for Nia Wu. Fin Wang turned on the desk lamp, the warm yellow light softening the water stains on his brow. Only then did Ru Su see the bloodshot veins in his eyes and the stubble on his chin speckled with traces of mud. "I've figured out the safflower in the chicken soup." He suddenly spoke, startling Ru Su into gripping the bedsheet tightly. "Nia Wu's uncle works at the herb station. He's been sending medicine to our house for half a year." Fin Wang pulled an oil paper packet from his pocket. unfolding it to reveal a few dried flower stamens. When you said you couldn't conceive last time, I knew something was off. Rusu stared at the safflower petals, her mind flashing back to the blinding white lights of the operating room. In her past life, she had clung to Fin Wang's sleeve until she lost consciousness, waiting for him to say, "Let's try for another one. I've written 17 divorce reports." Fin Wang suddenly squatted down. The knees of his military pants stained with dark watermarks. "Every time I was about to submit one, I'd remember you huddled by the stove, blowing on the fire." Rusu's throat tightened. In their past life, she had always loved squatting to tend the fire because Fin Wang said wood-fired meals tasted better. Once, a spark flew into her eye, and he spent half the night applying a cold towel to soothe it. A dull thunderclap exploded outside the window. Fin Wang reached out to touch her face, only to have his hand slapped away. "What's with the act now? Last month, you were watching a movie with Nia Wu. It was to track a spy." Fin Wang pulled open his shirt, revealing a bandage over his heart. There was enemy radio transmission in the screening of Love on Lushan Mountain. Her brother is a switchboard operator at the post office. Rusu stared at the yellow iodine stains seeping through the edges of the gauze, suddenly recalling the scent of blood when she washed his shirt last month. That day, he said it was just a training scrape, but now, carrying her across the river in that downpour, she saw a floating corpse upstream and fainted from fright. Fin Wang unwrapped the bandage, revealing a gruesome wound still stitched together. This cut was from debris underwater while retrieving the body. Rusu's fingertips turned cold. In her past life, she had assumed Fin Wang was growing increasingly disgusted with her, never realizing how many wounds he hid beneath his uniform. The most absurd part was Nia Wu, flaunting these incidents as battle achievements in front of her. She stole the watch. Fin Wang took out a metal box from the drawer. Inside lay Rusu's missing comb from last month, a hair tie, and that Shanghai watch. "I was planning to gather enough evidence before dealing with it all at once." Rusu picked up the comb. The side with the missing teeth still bore the engraved word Ru. It was a keepsake left by her mother, something she had searched for in vain until her death in her past life. Turns out this bastard had been keeping it all along. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" Rusu's throat felt as if stuffed with cotton. Fin Wang rewrapped the bandage, shadows falling across the bridge of his nose. "I was afraid you'd get dragged into it." He suddenly coughed, dark red streaks seeping through his fingers. "Cough, the doctor said this injury, I've got 5 years at most." The comb in Rusu's hand clattered to the floor. In her past life, Fin Wang had passed away in 1988 due to a recurrence of old injuries. At the memorial service, Nia Wu had even worn mourning attire. So that was why. Bullshit. She suddenly lunged forward, grabbing his shirt. "Are the military hospitals just for show? What happened to the medicine they prescribed you last time?" Fin Wang let her tug at him, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Rusu. Stop calling my name like that." Rusu's fingers brushed against the prominent vertebrae on his back. He had grown even thinner than last year. No wonder his military uniform hadn't needed alterations around the waist lately. She had thought it was just Nia Wu's excellent tailoring skills. "Back then you said you'd give me a daughter," Fin Wang suddenly said. "With your eyes and my temper." Rusu's hand froze. In their past life, the aborted child had been a fully formed boy. She had secretly buried him under a pine tree behind the military base, visiting every Qingming festival under the pretense of gathering wild vegetables just to weep. Fin Wang pulled out a pair of tiger-head shoes from under the pillow, the stitching crooked and uneven. "Clearly a man's handiwork. I tried learning how to make these, for when you're ready." Rusu snatched the shoes and hurled them at his face. "Ready my foot." The cloth shoes fell to the ground, revealing the characters, "Peace," embroidered inside, the gold thread already frayed. Fin Wang suddenly collapsed into her arms, his forehead frighteningly hot. Rusu felt the cold sweat on the back of his neck and only then remembered that this man had been running around in the rain for half the night with a fever. "The medicine, in the drawer." Fin Wang's breathy whisper brushed against her collarbone, sending a tingling sensation through her chest. Rusu fumbled to retrieve the fever-reducing pills, and as she pried open his mouth to push them in, he bit down on her fingertip. "Let go." Rusu shook her hand. "Are you a dog or something?" Fin Wang swallowed the pills with her help, his Adam's apple bobbing. "A dragon, actually, 3 years older than you." In the moment Rusu was lost in thought. She was pulled down onto the hard bed. Fin Wang rested his chin on the top of her head, his warm breath swirling around her hair. "Let me hold you for a while, just a little while." Outside the window, the rain gradually lessened. Rusu stared at the swaying shadow of the military cap on the wall. In her past life, she had often thought how impressive it would be if this cap could be worn by her son. As she dwelled on the thought, her tears soaked through the gauze on his chest. Fin Wang was burning with fever, yet the knuckles gripping Rusu's clothes were pale. Rusu wrung out a cold towel and placed it on his forehead. Under the dim glow of the desk lamp, his usually sharp brows softened, revealing a hint of youthful innocence. "Water," he groaned hoarsely, his Adam's apple straining beneath the bandages. Rusu pressed the military canteen to his lips, but Fin Wang suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Don't go, let go." Rusu struggled, catching sight of the crescent-shaped scar below his collarbone, the one she had bitten when she was 18, back then. Fin Wang had returned from the army on leave, and she had been hiding behind the old locust tree at the village entrance, secretly watching, only to be caught red-handed by him. "Are you a dog or what?" The younger Fin Wang grimaced in pain, his camouflage vest stained red with blood. Rusu crushed herbs and pressed them onto his wound. "Who told you to suddenly pop out like that?" Memories surged up, mingled with the damp scent of rain, as Rusu pried his fingers open. Fin Wang suddenly flipped over, pinning her down, his scorching breath hot against her neck. "That year, you said, you'd give me 5 kids. Are you delirious from fever?" Rusu kicked his shin but felt the uneven scars beneath her touch. They were from the steel rebar that had slashed him during the landslide the year before, when he had carried an injured young soldier 10 miles down the mountain road. Fin Wang suddenly groaned, cold sweat trickling down the bridge of his nose. Rusu felt the blood seeping through the gauze on his back and, recalling the bandaging technique taught by Dr. Liu from the clinic, she inexplicably lifted his shirt. Crisscrossing scars sprawled across his wheat-colored skin, the newest one stitched haphazardly like centipede legs. Rusu's fingers trembled slightly as she dabbed ointment onto the wound, only to have her fingertips suddenly seized. "Back then, you were just like this," Fin Wang murmured with his eyes closed. "Applying frostbite ointment for me in the recruit camp." Rusu's hand jerked, smearing ointment onto the bedsheet. It was the winter of 1979 when she braved heavy snow to deliver cotton-padded coats to the recruits and saw the raw, cracked wounds on Fin Wang's hands. The young nurse found them too dirty to touch, so she snatched the ointment and applied it herself. Only to be teased by his comrades as the little wife coming to visit. "Stop flattering yourself." Rusu yanked the gauze and wrapped it tightly around him. "If it had been any random person back then, I would've." Before she could finish, Fin Wang suddenly burst into laughter, causing his wound to ooze blood droplets. "What you smeared on Zhao Dahu was chili oil." Rusu froze. That unruly soldier who used to fight her for the frostbite ointment had been avoiding her ever since. So that was why. She couldn't help but burst into laughter, tears streaming down onto his back as she laughed. By the time dawn light crept over the window lattice, Fin Wang's fever had subsided somewhat. Rusu tiptoed to the kitchen to cook porridge, but when she lifted the lid of the clay pot, she froze, soaked wood ear mushrooms torn into small pieces, cured meat diced and fried to a fragrant crisp, all ingredients for treating blood loss. Damn it, she stirred the bubbling porridge, suddenly recalling how in her past life, whenever she fell ill, there would always be appropriate food placed by her bedside. She had thought it was Aunt Zhao's kindness, but now she realized. 3 months of secretly learning, and at least I didn't waste anything. Fin Wang leaned against the doorframe, his military uniform hanging loosely. The morning light cast a golden halo around him, making him seem like the handsome young man who once wore a big red flower. Rusu scooped a spoonful of porridge and blew on it, learned it in the mess squad, taught by old Ju's wife from the mess squad. Fin Wang took the bowl, his fingers brushing over the chipped rim. "She said you often get stomachaches in winter." Rusu stared at the gap, which was made last year when Fin Wang lost his temper and smashed something. At the time, she had crouched to pick up the broken pieces when he yelled, "Don't cut your hands," only for her palm to end up with a gash. Nia Wu's uncle was arrested, Fin Wang suddenly said. The herbal station found 20 pounds of safflower, and he confessed everything. The porcelain spoon clinked against the rim of the bowl, and Rusu recalled the blinding white of the surgical lights. In her past life, she had lain on the delivery bed waiting for a signature that never came. As the nurse said, Regimental Commander Wang was in an important meeting. Turns out, the meeting that day was about making arrests. I tore up the divorce papers. Fin Wang pulled a red cloth bundle from his pocket and unfolded it to reveal the broken half of a gold ring, its fractured ends bound with red thread. Should we have it remade, or, dingling? The door curtain was suddenly pushed aside as Nia Wu burst in, her makeup smeared from crying. Brother Fin. They're transferring me to the mess squad to feed pigs. Fin Wang thumped his porridge bowl onto the table. It's the organization's decision. You promised to take care of me forever. Nia Wu tugged at his sleeve. Just because of this Baron. Slap. Ru Su shook her numb, stinging hand. Nia Wu covered her face and shrieked. How dare you hit me? I'm hitting an ungrateful wretch like you. Ru Su yanked open her collar and pulled out a gold chain. This has Fin Wang's military medal hanging on it. Did you think it was a dog tag? Fin Wang suddenly stood up, his wound splitting open at the stitches. Only then did Ru Su notice his bare neck. That bullet-pierced medal, the one she'd clutched in her hand until death in her past life. Give it back. Fin Wang reached out to snatch it. Nia Wu suddenly backed toward the stove, and the overturned pot of porridge was about to spill onto her legs. Instinctively, Ru Su threw herself forward to shield her, and the scalding rice soup splashed entirely onto her right arm. Ru Su, Fin Wang scooped water from the vat and poured it over her arm. The cold water stung her skin, but Ru Su was too busy staring at his reddened eyes to notice. Back in her past life when she was scalded by boiling water, this bastard hadn't even accompanied her to the infirmary. Nia Wu tried to slip away, but Fin Wang kicked the doorframe to block her. Stealing military medals is enough to land you in a court-martial. Go explain yourself to the security department. At the clinic, military doctor Liu applied badger oil to Ru Su's arm. Lucky it didn't blister. I must say, you young couples, who's a couple with him? Ru Su yanked her arm back. Fin Wang crouched nearby, peeling an apple in one long, unbroken spiral. Back when I got bitten by a snake during field training, you did the same thing. I'll sew your mouth shut if you bring up the past again. Ru Su snatched the apple and took a bite, sweet juice trickling down the corner of her lips. Fin Wang suddenly leaned in to lick the juice off, startling the military medic Liu so badly he dropped his tweezers. Fin Wang, you, Her scolding was muffled as the sweetness of apple mixed with the bitterness of ointment. Ru Su pounded his back but softened her blows when her fingers brushed against the unhealed wounds beneath his bandages. As the setting sun stretched their shadows long, Fin Wang carried her home on his back. Ru Su rested against his sweat-dampened shirt, breathing in the familiar scent of soapberries. When you came back from the bandit suppression back then, you carried me like this too. You were light as a kitten back then. Fin Wang adjusted his grip on her. Now you're quite a handful. If it's too heavy, just put me down. Ru Su pinched his ear, catching sight of the suppressed smiles on the faces of the mess hall soldiers, then suddenly buried her burning face into the nape of his neck, the thumping of her heartbeat transmitted through his uniform, pounding so hard it made his ears tingle. The red double happiness symbol on the camphorwood chest suddenly fell off. As Ru Su bent to pick it up, she pulled out a bright red wedding dress from the bottom of the chest. The golden threaded mandarin ducks had faded, and the cuffs still bore the tear stains from her crying years ago. You absolutely refused to wear this on our wedding day, Fin Wang murmured, tracing the fabric's frog buttons, said it looked like a giant red envelope from under the blankets. Ru Su ran her fingers over the frayed embroidery. That day, the mountain road had been washed out by a torrential downpour, and Fin Wang had waded through waist-deep mud to fetch his bride. The Swana horns were too waterlogged to play, so he stood atop a jeep and sang Ode to the Red Plum, howling so loudly that every dog in the village joined in. Try it on. Fin Wang suddenly shook out the wedding dress. Ru Su stumbled back in panic. You're insane. At our age, 37. Fin Wang unbuttoned her blouse, a full decade younger than in my dreams. The rustling fabric startled sparrows outside the window, as Ru Su was enveloped in crimson brocade. She heard the laughter vibrating through Fin Wang's chest. Still fits you perfectly. The reflection showed flushed cheeks, and Ru Su seemed to glimpse her 18-year-old self in the mirror. Fin Wang embraced her from behind, resting his chin atop her head. That year you promised to wear this for our golden anniversary. Cut the nonsense. Ru Su stomped on his foot. You said soldiers don't go for this sort of thing. Times have changed. Fin Wang pulled out a gold bracelet and slipped it onto her wrist, looted from the bandits' hideout. Hid one before turning in the rest. Ru Su stared at the bullet mark inside the bracelet, suddenly recalling what the crematorium worker had said in her past life. This family member was clutching something in their hand. Might be important, so he'd hidden his true feelings amid gunfire all along. As dusk deepened, Fin Wang chopped firewood in the yard. Ru Su folded the altered military uniform into the camphorwood chest, with that bright red wedding dress pressed beneath it. The radio was playing Tien Mi, and she hummed along for a few lines before suddenly being pulled into an embrace that smelled of firewood. We're taking wedding photos tomorrow. Fin Wang nuzzled the tip of his nose against her earlobe. The Civil Affairs Bureau just got a new Seagull camera. No. Ru Su elbowed him in the ribs. Our divorce papers haven't even cooled off yet. Then warm me up first. Fin Wang pressed her hand against his chest, where the scar pulsed with his heartbeat. Warm me for a lifetime. The cicadas screeched through the scorching July heat. Ru Su's foot slipped on the sewing machine pedal, and the needle snapped into her index finger with a sharp click. A bead of blood seeped into the Dacron fabric, blooming like a crimson plum blossom. She stared blankly at the military uniform drying outside the window. It should have been collected today, yet it had been swaying on the clothesline for 3 days. Xiao Su. Aunt Liu's booming voice crashed through the screen window. Your Fin is at the training ground with that new girl from the cultural troupe. Oh, just go see for yourself. Ru Su's blood-stained fingertips smeared onto the sewing machine cover, eerily reminiscent of the handprint pressed on her marriage certificate years ago. The rhythmic click-clack of the Butterfly brand sewing machine abruptly stopped as she grabbed a clothes-drying pole and sprinted toward the training field. The rubber soles of her shoes nearly melting from the scorching heat. Through the wire fence, she saw Fin Wang supporting a girl in an apple-green dress. The girl swayed toward him as if with a sprained ankle, her wavy chestnut hair brushing against his arm, while sunlight twisted their shadows into an inseparable braid. Attention! Fin Wang suddenly barked. The girl staggered but steadied herself, just as Ru Su began to exhale in relief. She watched him pull a square handkerchief from his trouser pocket, pale blue checkered, sewn from leftover curtain fabric by her own hands. Captain Wang is so considerate. The girl's voice was sickly sweet, her crimson-lacquered fingers tracing his palm. For tomorrow's performance, you must sit in the front row. Ru Su's clothes hanger clattered to the ground. Fin Wang turned at the sound, but the girl promptly looped her arm through his. And who might this elder sister be? Fin Wang shook her off, his military boots crunching over gravel. My wife. Oh, so this is Sister Ru Su. The girl swept her bangs aside, revealing a teardrop mole at the corner of her eye. Nia's always talking about you. Says your uniform alterations fit better than the logistics department's. Ru Su stared at the red string around her neck. Dangling from it was a brass bullet casing, identical to the one Fin Wang treasured in her past life. She had to pry open his stiff fingers at the crematorium to retrieve that bullet, dug out from his heart. Tonight, we're having dumplings. Ru Su bent down to pick up the clothes-drying pole, stuffed with chives. Fin Wang reached out to steady her, but she sidestepped his touch. The girl suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, Commander Wang, there's a loose thread on your cuff." She pressed close, fingers brushing his wrist, her bright red nail polish glaring painfully in the sunlight. A sour taste exploded in Ru Su's chest as she yanked Fin Wang's arm. Let's go home. Her nails dug into the old scar in the crook of his elbow, a mark left when he took a hoe blow meant for her. During dinner, the aluminum pot lid hissed and popped. Fin Wang picked up a dumpling with broken skin. Lin Xiaomai from the newly arrived cultural troupe, her father, smack. The vinegar bottle slammed onto the enamel plate, splashing liquid that stained the front of the military uniform. Ru Su grabbed a rag and wiped haphazardly, the pungent smell of leeks mixed with garlic paste making their eyes sting. Fin Wang, where's the bullet casing you kept by your heart? Fin Wang's chopsticks paused in the vinegar dish. Turned it in. Bullshit. Ru Su overturned the stool. Last month you were still using it to open bottle caps for me. Ru Su. Fin Wang gripped her wrist, his palm bearing the marks of gunpowder burns. Deputy Division Commander Lin has spoken to me. She suddenly remembered delivering the altered military uniforms to the division headquarters the day before yesterday and overhearing whispers drifting from the restroom. Regimental Commander Wang's career is at stake. Deputy Division Commander Lin's daughter, the divorce papers should have been approved long ago. Are you getting promoted? Ru Su shook off his hand, her lower back hitting the corner of the cupboard. The pickled garlic in the glass jar sloshed brown liquid. Just like the blood that had once flowed to her ankles, Fin Wang reached out to pull her up when suddenly a horn sounded outside the door. The messenger poked half his head in. Regiment Commander, Comrade Lin says the performance costumes need your approval. Ru Su grabbed a rolling pin and swung it at the jeep's tire. Approval my ass. The screech of scraping paint startled the cicadas from the poplar trees. Fin Wang wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. His hot breath against her sweaty nape. Stop it, it's a mission. Does the mission require hugging? Does the mission require giving love tokens? Ru Su scratched his chin with her free hand, leaving 3 bloody marks. Fin Wang, you told Nia Wu it was a mission too. The words hung in the air, leaving both stunned. Fin Wang loosened his grip, and Ru Su seized the chance to break free, only to see Lin Xiaomai emerge from the jeep's backseat. Her apple-green skirt brushing past Fin Wang's military boots. Don't get the wrong idea, Sister Su. Lin Xiaomai jingled the car keys. My dad asked me to learn driving from Captain Wang. Said it'll be convenient for army life later. Convenient my ass. Ru Su yanked off her apron and threw it to the ground. I've had enough of this damn military housing. A tin box slipped from the apron pocket, scattering tiger head shoes, a gold bracelet, and half a ring clattering across the floor. Fin Wang bent down to pick them up, but Lin Xiaomei's high heel stepped on the gold bracelet. Captain Wang, we should go. Ru Su grabbed Lin Xiaomei's curly hair and slammed her against the wall. Looking just like when she used to beat up chicken thieves. Fin Wang wrapped his arms around her waist and lifted her off the ground. Her legs flailed wildly, sending a rubber shoe flying up to the roof beam and stirring up a cloud of years-old dust. You're protecting her. Ru Su turned her head and bit his arm. Fin Wang, have you no conscience? That year when you were shot and unconscious, who was it, who stayed awake for 3 days and nights without sleep? Fin Wang pressed her onto the 8 Immortals table, his eyes bloodshot. Who chewed ginseng slices and passed them into my mouth? Ru Su, I've carved all of this into my bones. Lin Xiaomei's sobs were as faint as a mosquito's hum, but Ru Su was fixated on the faint red cord peeking from Fin Wang's collar, where the bullet casing pendant should have been, now empty. Suddenly, her strength drained away, her nails digging into the growth rings in the table's crevice. Let's get a divorce. I'll make room for Miss Lin. Fin Wang's pupils contracted sharply. He grabbed the car keys and hurled them toward the door. As Lin Xiaomei's shrieks mixed with the roar of the jeep's engine fading into the distance, he gripped Ru Su's chin, forcing her to look up. Say that again. I said let go. Fin Wang's kiss came down with a metallic taste of blood, and even as Ru Su bit his tongue until it bled, he refused to release her. The teacup on the 8 Immortals table rolled to the floor and shattered into pieces, eerily reminiscent of the pair of enamel mugs used for the wedding toast on their first night. In the struggle, they knocked over the 5-drawer cabinet, and a yellowed medical report fluttered out from a drawer. Ru Su caught sight of the words habitual miscarriage and suddenly tore at him like a madwoman. No wonder you went looking for someone who could bear children. Fin Wang snatched the torn pieces barehanded, his fingertips sliced and bleeding. I hid this because I didn't want you to suffer. Hid, as if you haven't hidden enough. Ru Su kicked him away. Hiding injuries, hiding illnesses, hiding bullet casings. Now you're even hiding people. She grabbed the wedding dress from the camphorwood chest and tore at it, the snapping of golden threads sounding like the final break of a heartstring. Fin Wang suddenly drew his service pistol, loaded it, and with a bang, shot through the roof beam, amid the fluttering dust. His eyes were bloodshot. Ru Su, if I, Fin Wang, ever betray you, may I be struck by lightning. You should have been struck dead long ago. Ru Su hurled the torn remnants of her wedding dress at him. That year when the flood came, you said you were going to help with disaster relief, but you ended up at Nia Wu's place. Her father entrusted her to me on his deathbed. The house collapsed, and I went to save people. Fin Wang tore open his shirt, revealing a scar on his chest as hideous as a centipede. This wound was from the roof beam. Do you want to count how many ribs I broke? Ru Su stared blankly at the scar. In her past life, when she changed his burial clothes, this wound had already festered and bred maggots. She had cleaned it bit by bit with cotton swabs, swallowing both the maggots and her tears in the end. Lin Xiaomei's shrill voice suddenly blared from the loudspeaker. Next, we invite Regimental Commander Fin Wang and Comrade Lin Xiaomei to perform a duet of the moon on the 15th. Fin Wang's face instantly paled. He grabbed his military belt and sprinted toward the auditorium. Ru Su, as if possessed, followed and hid behind the curtain, where she saw Lin Xiaomei standing on tiptoe to pin a boutonniere on him. The rose-red silk flower was identical to the one she had worn years ago. Commander Wang, my father said he'll arrange your transfer as soon as the marriage application is approved. Lin Xiaomei's trailing words were drowned in applause. Fin Wang took half a step back, and the boutonniere fell to the ground, soon crushed under her high heels into a crumpled mess. Ru Su turned and bumped into a prop stand, causing red satin to cascade over her head. When Fin Wang lifted the fabric, all he caught was a cold wrist. The gold bracelet he had clasped there himself was gone, leaving only a faint white mark. The night rain soaked through the military compound. Ru Su curled up amidst piles of fabric in the tailor's shop. The sewing machine from her dowry had rusted, its pedal creaking like the mournful cry of an old crow. Inside the glass cabinet lay the hair ties and clips Fin Wang had given her, while the dust-covered marriage certificate still bore the faded blue ink fingerprints. The door curtain was suddenly flung open as Fin Wang stumbled in, drenched from head to toe. His military uniform bulged at the chest. When he reached in, he produced an oil paper package wrapped layer upon layer, containing that bullet casing. Deputy Division Commander Lin offered a transfer order in exchange for this, but I refused. His lips were purple from the cold. Ru Su, if I can protect this bullet casing, I can protect you. Ru Su traced the dent on the bullet casing, left when it had lodged in her shoulder blade years ago. Suddenly, she remembered the delirious words Fin Wang had muttered while unconscious. Ru, don't look, it's scary. Amidst the sound of rain, chaotic footsteps mixed in. Lin Xiaomei shone a flashlight inside. Fin Wang, how dare you hide military secrets here? A bullet casing rolled to the ground, and Fin Wang stomped on it. This is my life. He grabbed Ru Su's hand and pressed it against his chest. If you want my life, here it is, but if you want the bullet casing, the sharp click of a gun being cocked pierced through the rain. Ask it first if it agrees. Lin Xiaomei's flashlight clattered to the ground, its beam illuminating the bullet marks on the casing like a menacing eye. Fin Wang's gun barrel emitted a wisp of smoke, and Ru Su caught the familiar scent of gunpowder, identical to the smell on the urn in the funeral parlor from their past life. You're insane. Lin Xiaomei stepped back, splashing through puddles. This is defying military orders. Fin Wang tore off his collar insignia and slammed it onto the tailoring table, the brass star gleaming coldly in the rain. Back then, I risked my life to fight for this country, not to become stepping stones for you parasites. Ru Su suddenly remembered that rainy night in 1979 when Fin Wang kicked open the door of the tailor shop, covered in blood, and thrust his military medal into her hand. If I don't come back, use this to pay for my coffin. His eyes burned with the same fire then, fierce enough to boil the pouring rain. When Deputy Division Commander Lin stormed in with his guard platoon, Fin Wang was kneeling on the ground, wiping bullet casings. Ru Su pressed the tip of her scissors against her neck, blood trickling down her collarbone. If anyone dares touch him, I'll die right here. Ridiculous. Deputy Division Commander Lin's face flickered in the lightning. Fin, for a woman who can't even bear a child. Bang. The bullet whizzed past Deputy Division Commander Lin's ear, shattering the portrait of the great man on the wall. Fin Wang's one-handed magazine reload was fluid, reminiscent of his championship-winning performance in the martial arts competition years ago. Say that again, and the next bullet goes here. He tapped the barrel against his own temple. Ru Su's scissors clattered to the floor. She finally saw the bloodstains spreading across Fin Wang's back, like a blooming red plum blossom. This fool was pushing himself despite his wound reopening. Everyone, get out. Fin Wang suddenly staggered to his feet. I need to have a private word with my wife. Lin Xiaomei wanted to say more, but her father dragged her away by the arm. Ru Su heard the sound of the jeep's engine fading into the thunder, then turned to see Fin Wang loading bullets into the sewing machine. Before she could finish, Fin Wang collapsed into a pile of fabric. Ru Su rushed over and tore at his clothes. The stench of festering wounds made her head throb. The injury had been infected for at least 3 days. The clinic had run out of patient gowns, so Rusu cut up her wedding dress for bandages. Fin Wang, delirious with fever, gripped her wrist and muttered, "Don't be afraid, Ru. I cleared all the landmines." It was the spring of 1981 when she stepped on an anti-personnel mine while visiting the front lines with a morale-boosting troop. Fin Wang spent 2 hours lying on the ground defusing it, his sweat dripping into the dirt and leaving tiny craters. Later, he used that moment as his marriage proposal. "I traded my life for this wife. No one, not even the heavens, can take her from me, bastard." Rusu wrung out the wet towel, tears falling onto his scorching chest. "Addicted to playing the hero, aren't you?" The night rain drummed against the tin roof as Rusu pulled out the metal box he had hidden deep in the dresser. Beneath the bullet casings lay a yellowed medical record, the latest page reading, "Shrapnel displacement, amputation recommended." The date was last Wednesday, the very day he'd said he was going to a meeting at the division headquarters. Liar, Rusu slapped the medical record against his face. "I'd have accepted you even as a cripple. Who gave you the right to decide for me?" Fin Wang's eyelashes fluttered, a faint smile appearing on his fever-flushed face. "Back then, you said you wanted to marry a man who stood tall and unyielding." "Bullshit. I said I'd marry a living man." Rusu yanked up his pant leg, revealing a hideous scar snaking down his calf. In her past life, when she dressed his corpse, that leg had been nothing but bone. Yet now it could still carry her for miles. At the crack of dawn, Fin Wang suddenly began convulsing. Rusu dug out the silver bracelet she'd kept hidden at the bottom of her chest and ran toward town, her mother's dowry. Something she hadn't even pawned during the famine years. A pudgy hand reached out from behind the pawnshop's iron bars. "Military family goods. You'll need documentation." "Documentation my ass." Rusu grabbed an inkstone and hurled it. "This is life-saving money." The old street erupted with the piercing sound of an alarm as Rusu clutched 50 yuan and sprinted. The wind sliced into her lungs like a knife, reminding her of the year she chased after the recruit truck. When Fin Wang's thrown canteen left a bruise on her forehead, the clinic hallway was packed with armed soldiers, and Deputy Division Commander Lin blocked the operating room door. "Comrade Su, if you sign the divorce papers now, there's still time to sign your ancestors." Rusu flung the cash in his face. "This is my body's selling price. Is it enough to buy one of his legs?" A nurse rushed over holding a blood plasma bag. "The patient needs a transfusion." Rusu rolled up her sleeves, revealing the bluish veins. "Take mine. Back when we were fighting bandits, he took a bullet for me. It's time to repay that debt." The moment the needle pierced her skin, memories flooded back like a torrent. On their wedding night, Fin Wang washed her feet, saying a wife with calloused soles would bring her husband good fortune. When she miscarried, he knelt outside the operating room, his military uniform torn to shreds by her nails, and every morning before a mission, he would always hide the tenderest fried egg beneath the rice porridge in her bowl. Blood pressure stabilized. The nurse's cheer snapped her back to reality. Rusu leaned against the wall as she shuffled to the observation room, where she saw Fin Wang through the glass, his body riddled with tubes. The green light of the EKG flickered like the beat she used to keep during the cultural troops' performances. Lin Xiaomai appeared out of nowhere, her apple-green skirt stained with blood. "My dad said, shut the hell up." Rusu yanked her hair and slammed her head against the wall. "If you dare touch my man again, I'll pluck every single strand of your hair to knit a sweater." Fin Wang woke up at dusk 3 days later. Rusu was wiping his body with a towel when he grabbed her wrist as it brushed over the scar on his chest. "Wife? Who's your wife?" Rusu shook off his hand. "I've already signed the divorce papers." Fin Wang pulled out a tin box from under his pillow, a bullet casing wrapped in blood-stained bandages inside. "Will you trade it for this?" "Change your head." Rusu hurled the tin box at the window, the shattering glass startling the sparrows from the tree. Fin Wang suddenly rolled off the bed, dragging his lame leg as he crawled outside. "I'll go get it." "Fin Wang," Rusu sobbed, clinging to him. "I don't want it anymore. I don't want anything." The setting sun cast their shadows on the wall, like a faded paper cut. Fin Wang felt her empty wrist. "Where's the bracelet?" "Pawned it." Rusu buried her face in the crook of his neck. "Traded it for a lame man. What a terrible deal." As the cicadas' chirping gradually faded, the cultural troops truck rolled into the compound. Lin Xiaomai clutched her bedding roll, sobbing. Her father's transfer order had been replaced with a discharge notice. Ru Su worked the sewing machine, altering Fin Wang's trousers, needing to take in the right leg by an inch. Wife. Fin Wang hobbled over on his crutch. The organization approved the request for me to bring my family along with the army. No, Ru Su bit off the thread. I'll stay right here altering your pants for the rest of my life. Suddenly, Fin Wang pulled out a little red book from behind his back, its cover embossed with golden double happiness characters. Then let's get our marriage certificates sorted first. Ru Su noticed the certificate's issuance date was today, the ink still fresh. Fin Wang, you pulled strings again, through the front door. Fin Wang pointed to his chest. The gate here is always open for you. As dusk died, the military uniforms on the clothesline read. Ru Su found a surprise at the bottom of the camphorwood chest, her mother's silver bracelet lying safely, with a pawn ticket and a brand new savings passbook beneath it. Fin Wang's handwriting pressed firmly through the paper. Wife fund. Night rain came again. While washing Ru Su's feet, Fin Wang said, when your leg heals, I'll take you for our golden anniversary photo. Pa, Ru Su splashed water in his face. Let's see if you can make it to your golden anniversary first. The radio was playing The Glory of Bloodstains when Fin Wang suddenly began humming a discordant tune. It took Ru Su a while to recognize it. It was Ode to the Red Plum Blossoms, the song he'd sung from the roof of a jeep during that year's torrential downpour. The bullet shell on the windowsill had sprouted. Wildflower seeds Ru Su had planted were pushing up green shoots. As she traced the scar on Fin Wang's leg, she recalled the words of Dr. Liu from the infirmary. All the shrapnel's been removed, but when the weather turns damp, does it hurt? Blow on it, and the pain will go away. As the rain gradually subsided, Ru Su found a note in the sewing machine drawer. Fin Wang's scrawled handwriting read, in the next life, I'll still alter your pants for you. She laughed until tears streamed down her face, dampening the freshly altered military uniform. On New Year's Eve in 1999, the melody of the Story of Spring drifted from the loudspeakers in the military compound. Ru Su worked the Butterfly brand sewing machine to alter a cotton-padded jacket for her granddaughter, her gold bracelet clinking against the tabletop. Fin Wang leaned in with his jujube wood cane, two faded 5-point stars pinned to the collar of his military uniform. Grandpa, the little girl rushed into his arms, holding up a bullet casing. Can I trade this for candy? It could buy your grandma half a lifetime. Fin Wang threaded the bullet casing back onto the red string and slipped it onto Ru Su's wrist. The gold bracelet clinked against the casing, eerily reminiscent of the symbols from their old cultural troop days. As firecrackers exploded outside, Ru Su fed more firewood into the stove. The flames cast flickering light on the golden anniversary photo on the wall. Blurred by a seagull camera, it looked instead like it was bathed in morning mist. Beneath the photo lay a yellowed divorce certificate, cut in two to prop up the table. Old Commander, a car horn sounded outside. The Spring Festival Gala is about to air your documentary. Fin Wang tucked a hot water bottle into his army coat. Not going, staying home to make dumplings with the old lady. Who cares? Ru Su banged the rolling pin loudly. Back when we took our wedding photos, your smile was the fakest of all. Before she could finish, a loud military bugle sounded from the TV. In the documentary, 20-year-old Fin Wang dashed through barbed wire, bullets whizzing past his ears. Ru Su suddenly pointed at the screen. Isn't that the knee pads you sewed? Fin Wang added vinegar-braised cabbage to her bowl. You secretly tucked them in when you hemmed my pants. Dumplings tumbled in the boiling water as Ru Su gazed at the newly built residential buildings outside the window. The leaky little bungalow from back then had long been demolished, but the camphorwood chest still sat on the balcony. Inside it locked a broken-toothed comb, a fire-warped gold ring, and 17 undelivered divorce petitions. During the Spring Festival Gala, as the song Unforgettable Tonight played, Fin Wang suddenly pulled out a tin box. Ru Su opened it to find half a piece of walnut cake, now covered in green mold. It was the dry ration she had chased after the truck to give him when he enlisted in the army in 1976. You wasteful old man. Ru Su raised her hand as if to hit him, but he caught her wrist. The calluses from his gun rubbed against her wrinkles. With the same strength as when they had pulled their marriage certificate all those years ago, the medals sent by the military district jingled in the drawer. Fin Wang had given them all to his granddaughter to use as a rattle. Only the wind chime made of bullet casings hung by the window, emitting a coppery rust smell when rained on, eerily reminiscent of that era of blood and fire. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, snow fell against the lanterns as Fin Wang lay on the white sheets of the military hospital. The waves on the ECG monitor grew flatter and flatter. Ru Su pressed her ear to his chest and whispered, "Didn't you promise to alter my pants for the rest of your life? Next life?" Fin Wang twirled a strand of her hair around his finger. "Change into a asterisk Balaji asterisk." The bullet shell wind chime suddenly tinkled, and Ru Su looked up to see the morning star outside the window. Fin Wang's breath slowly dissolved into the dawn mist, the red string on his wrist still entwined with 2 strands of white hair. At the memorial service, the younger generation tried to remove the 5-point star from his collar. Ru Su raised her cane and blocked the coffin. "That's my dowry." The following Qingming festival, new recruits often saw an old lady sitting beneath the wall of honor. At her feet, a tin box was filled with white rabbit candies, which she handed out to everyone she met. "My Fin had a sweet tooth." Ru walked on that year's awakening of Insects Day, while sorting through the belongings. Her daughter found a bright red wedding dress at the bottom of the camphorwood chest, the mandarin ducks embroidered with gold thread still vividly bright. Tucked inside the collar was a note, its clumsy handwriting blurred by time. "Ru, in the next life, let's still live in the military compound. I'll alter 100 Balaji dresses for you." Outside the window, the spring rain pattered softly, and the bullet casing wind chime swayed gently. 2 red star badges nestled together under a glass cover, just like the twin lotus flowers on their marriage certificate back in the day.